individuals to strengthen the moral foundations of our culture. We also support the church. We want to be a leading organization in biblical worldview training for cultural transformation. Thank you for standing with us.
Welcome to Today's Issues, offering a Christian response to the issues of the day. Here's your host, Tim Wildman, President of the American Family Association.
Hey, good morning, everybody, and welcome to Today's Issues on the American Family Radio Network. Thanks for listening to AFR on this Wednesday, December the 27th. And we hope everybody had a wonderful Christmas celebration. A lot to talk about today, and joining me in studio is Fred Jackson. Good morning, Fred.
Good morning, Tim.
Ed Battagliano.
Hey, good morning, Tim. Only
And Wesley Wildman.
363 days till Christmas. So get ready on your shopping.
Hey, but 2 days till Friday.
That's
Is that right?
That's true. That's true.
Good morning. Glad
Now,
to be
Wesley,
on.
I'm surprised you're in studio with us. You're usually this time of the year in the woods
That is true.
hunting prey.
That is true. Hunting prey. I'm a big deer hunter. I'm a big hunter, but it's deer season, so I would typically be deer hunting. But I tried something different this year. I didn't spread my days out like I usually do. I just picked a week and went as much as I could. And last week was my week. So now this week it's time to be a responsible adult.
Any deer meat in the freezer, though, as a result?
Oh, yeah, deer meat in the freezer. My son's killed his first deer this year, so that was a good experience. Got the whole thing on video, and so got a freezer full of meat, so that's good.
I killed my first rat of the season. I don't know if that counts.
There's no season for
coming
that.
in, yeah.
Rat season?
Coming in from the cold, I guess.
You'd be surprised what people will cook when you get into the hunting world. We were.
I really don't want to talk about this, to be honest with you. I'm having a good day, Wes.
My son came across a YouTube guy, Christian guy, does a hunting YouTube channel, and he was cooking up squirrel the other day. And so, interesting when you skin the squirrel, what it looks like. It looks like a rat.
A rat, that's right. Bushy-tailed rat.
Now,
skin a
Ed on
squirrel,
the other
what-
hand, goes after rabbits.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Oh,
You can season it all.
You never forgot that.
I know
story.
I did not. I had an image.
I won't, folks, I will not repeat the story because it makes Tim physically sick to his stomach.
Is this why you stay away from hunting, Dad? Or is it the cold?
Well, both.
Got a long list.
This wasn't a hunting story.
He's got a long
We all have
I
our
have.
likes and dislikes.
This was a story about something that happened while we were burning the burn pile.
Oh, I remember this story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's
I
all
I do
I'll
know
say.
this story.
It's a famous story.
It is. It's pretty famous.
Yeah.
Interesting.
You ought to write a children's book based on that story, Fred. I mean, Ed.
A children's book.
Now
you
you've
know,
got thousands
the day
and
that-
thousands
the
of
day the-
listeners wondering what's going on.
The day the rabbits ran out of the fire.
That's right. Look, Mommy, the rabbit's on fire.
It
we
really
probably need to
was.
move on.
Let's move on, folks. For those
Move
of you who
on.
are wondering what happened, you can kind of put two and two together, I think.
It was a story in Ed's past that
That's
happened.
right.
It was a real story.
And it involved a shovel.
Yeah.
And it made him a better man at the end of the day.
It did. And my wife, from that moment on, forbade me from burning the burn pile.
There you go.
Yeah.
So,
All
Not
right.
checking first.
Well, we will again. We'll interview you when you write that children's book based on that story right there. All right, you're listening to Today's Issues on American Family Radio. Ed, you want to tell folks how they can join us on their internet?
absolutely. If you'd like to watch the video feed of this program, we do have video feeds for most of our talk radio programming. You have three options. You can go to Facebook or YouTube, search for Today's Issues. On YouTube, I think you do have to search for Today's Issues Live. Or you can go to our own streaming platform, streaming.afa.net, streaming.afa.net. We do also encourage you to get the AFR app on your smartphone, and you can listen to AFR programming anywhere you have a good signal. So,
Fred, what's your first story?
Well, it's breaking news this morning from the Michigan Supreme Court. And the Michigan Supreme Court has said that former President Donald Trump's name can be on the ballot in that state. That, of course, comes just 6-7 days after a Colorado Supreme Court said, no, his name cannot be on the ballot in Colorado. And using that Amendment 14 of the Constitution, which talks about developing an insurrection. So Michigan Supreme Court seeing it quite different from the Colorado Supreme Court. And there are several other jurisdictions where, might I say, Democrat-led interest groups are trying to keep the former president's name off the ballot in those individual states, arguing that he was responsible for what they call the insurrection on January 6, 2021.
Well, this is, kind of a weird thing, too, because now what the justice who wrote the decision in Michigan, Justice Elizabeth Welch, which she said is part of the reason was that Colorado's election law differs from Michigan's, and that's why Michigan was not granting the relief to those who had filed the lawsuit. But you're going to have different laws, Tim, in several states. So we may wind up with a mishmash of different decisions once these things go to court.
Yeah, I don't know who's going to rule on this. Who's going to overrule the Colorado Supreme Court? I mean, it'll go to federal court, I guess. And does it go all the way to the Supreme Court? And do they overturn the Supreme Court of the state of Colorado?
Well,
usually, election laws left to the states.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? They usually. So I don't know. I don't hear a lot of people say, well, the Supreme Court of the United States is going to overturn this. I don't know. I wouldn't be so sure.
Well, one of the options
may or may not.
One of the options that came out of the Colorado decision from the Republican Party in Colorado is, okay, we may have a caucus.
Yeah.
Right.
And that way they don't have to have ballots.
Or names on ballots.
Or names on ballots.
For a primary election.
Yeah.
It seems to me like this is a big enough issue that there has to be an overall solution decision because you either he by the law, and I'm not getting into how we interpret it, but by the law, either he responsible for an insurrection or he's not. You can't have one state saying he created an insurrection, another. This has to be decided on somewhere. Which is why I think it would be what one of y'all suggested just now, that it would be a federal court ruling at some point.
Well, I'm sure it's going to go to the federal court system. Tim, like you said, though, traditionally conservatives are about states' rights.
Yeah, sure.
But at the same time, sometimes states are controlled by one political party. The Colorado Supreme Court, these are all left-wingers as far as I understand.
4-3. What's a blue state?
Appointed by a Democratic governor. So it's a pretty big deal to deny a political party a candidate on the ballot.
It is for the general election?
If you read the 14th Amendment that's cited here, okay, if you read it, it was we might just read it verbatim here. Do you have it in front of you, Ed?
No, I'll look it up. 14th
Look
Amendment.
it up, because I think it's important that we read it for just a minute. This was intended to prevent the Confederacy from rising again, basically.
Okay, I've got it.
All right, read it.
It says, no state shall make or enforce any law which, that's the 14th Amendment, but it's not the entirety of it. Hang on one second.
Section 3.
All right, Section 3.
Yeah.
All right, no person shall be a senator or representative in Congress or elector of president and vice president, or hold any office, civil or military, under the United States or under any state who, having previously taken an oath as a member of Congress or as an officer of the United States or as a member of any state legislature or as an executive or judicial officer of any state to support the Constitution of the United States shall have engaged in insurrection or rebellion against the same, or given aid or comfort to the enemies thereof. But Congress may, by a vote of 2/3 of each house, remove such disability. I think partly the reason why the Democratic Party immediately after January 6th, whatever you want to call it, a riot, insurrection, coup, there's been all kinds of things. But for the most part, the Democratic Party immediately began calling it an insurrection. And I think it was to tie it to this Section 3 of the 14th Amendment.
Yeah, so the history of that is that was to prevent the Confederacy from rising from the dead.
Yeah, they didn't want people who had been in the Confederacy to gain office and be able to vote to overthrow the Constitution.
Right. Now, when I listen to what you read, okay, then to me it all comes down to what your definition of the word insurrection is. It also says or a rebellion.
Right.
Okay. So I've heard, as you say, if you're a Democrat, you're going to say all day, every day, what happened on January 6th was a rebellion, was an insurrection. It was a threat against democracy. They were people invaded the Capitol trying to prevent the peaceful transition of power. That's what they're going to say every day, all day until eternity. Okay?
Right.
Other people, Republicans, maybe not all Republicans, but the vast majority of Republicans are going to say, no, wait a minute, this was a riot. This was a protest that got out of hand. People's emotions got away with them. They didn't take weapons. And so, yes, they stormed the Capitol. They went into the Capitol. They shouldn't have, but it wasn't a true insurrection. Those are the two views of January the 6th. And if you take the view that I expressed at first by Democrats, you're going to say, hey, listen, Trump violated the Constitution there, what is it, 14th Amendment?
Section 3 of
Section
the
3.
14th Amendment.
Yeah, and that's what they're going to say. So what I'm saying is it will come down to what probably, Wesley said this will probably have to go to the Supreme Court because other states may initiate it themselves, although it's been unsuccessful everywhere but Colorado, this attempt to keep Trump off the ballot based on that. That the Supreme Court of the United States is going to have to decide, was it an insurrection or not?
And I think the reason this does wind up in federal court is that even though conservatives generally believe in states' rights, the state of Colorado and the plaintiff in this case they're appealing to the U.S. Constitution. They're basically appealing to the federal document, if you will, that oversees the entirety of the nation. That's why this almost has to wind up in the federal court somehow, some way.
You would think, though, by a definition of insurrection, that there would have to be an ongoing, long-term plan and process in place, not just an individual's phrase that he said that would motivate. So I don't know. Obviously,
well, it also says insurrection or rebellion.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you got to be able to prove two things. And my non-lawyerly opinion, although my mom thought I was a lawyer, so I don't know if that counts for anything. But there's two things. You have to be able to prove that what happened on January 6th was either an insurrection or a rebellion, and that, second of all, that President Trump was in charge of it.
Yes.
You have to be able to prove those two things, I think, in order to invalidate President Trump.
It depends on whether you're a Democrat or not.
That's
or
true.
Republican. The Democrat's going to say, yeah, he was in charge of it. He told him to go down to the Capitol and fight like hell.
Stop the steal.
It was very
the steal.
I'm
just telling you what they're going to say.
Right.
Sure.
And people who support President Trump say, no, he said peacefully.
Yeah.
Peacefully.
And then after all this, we'll get Maxine Waters for her encouraging her supporters to go harass Trump supporters.
Well,
but do it peacefully.
You know what's funny is
she didn't say peacefully.
Ordinarily, I would say, well, Republicans don't roll that way. They're not going to do it. But Fred, there have been some people kicking around the idea of trying to boot Joe Biden off some state ballots, almost like in retaliation to what they did in Colorado and are trying to do elsewhere
because of the border policy.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right,
All right.
we're not going to solve this one. The Supreme Court will probably have to step in, as you guys said, somewhere along the way and rule on what the Colorado Supreme Court did. Colorado is a blue state. They're not going to vote for Trump anyway, or any Republican, quite frankly. It used to be a purple state. Maybe I'm too negative there. Maybe there's a chance somewhere a Republican could win. I mean, that happened in Virginia. Basically, what happened to Colorado was what happened in Virginia, and they flipped red. So perhaps that could happen somewhere, but President Trump did not win Colorado last election cycle, and I don't think he beat Clinton there either. So I'm just saying that taking a Republican off the ballot in Colorado doesn't affect the numbers. If it were in the it doesn't affect the Electoral College numbers.
Colorado went blue in 2016.
Okay, they're blue. They're a blue
point.
state. Next story, Fred.
Well, speaking of the United States Supreme Court, there was a big ruling late Friday afternoon when everybody was heading home for the Christmas weekend. The United States Supreme Court ruled against a plea from special counsel Jack Smith, who wanted the United States Supreme Court to rule quickly.
How did he plea, Fred? Did he plead with passion? Did he,
Well, if he did not
did he get down on one knee and plead? How did he plea, Fred?
Not good enough, apparently. But Jack Smith wanted a ruling quickly from the United States Supreme Court because there is an argument coming from the former president that on January 6th he was still president of the United States and therefore is immune for prosecution for anything done on that date. That's the argument. Now, so Jack Smith wanted the United States Supreme Court to rule on that, to go around an appeals court. The United States Supreme Court said on Friday, no, we're not going to do that. So the case in Washington with regards to what Trump did or didn't do on January 6th is being paused at the moment because that is now going to go to an appeals court. The argument, again, from Trump's lawyers is that he's immune because he was president.
Immune from what?
Immune from prosecution.
But he doesn't need to be prosecuted if he didn't do anything wrong.
Yep. Well, the argument is because he was president that he's immune.
In other words, there shouldn't be a trial.
There shouldn't be a trial.
Shouldn't be a trial. Okay.
Yes. So what Jack...
That's not a confession of guilt in any way.
Right.
That's
No.
just saying there shouldn't be a trial.
Mm-hmm.
I'm immune. President Trump and his attorneys are saying I'm immune from any kind of criminal charges.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. So
for what happened on January 6th. I got you.
And the reason Jack Smith is doing that because the prosecution is getting concerned that now that it has to go through an appeals court, that and if Trump loses there, he would appeal to the United States Supreme Court. The concern from Jack Smith and company is that, okay, if it goes that far, maybe the United States Supreme Court would not hear that case until after the fall election, in which time a lot of people say, well, Trump would fire Jack Smith if he gets reelected as president, and everything would go away. So that's where we are there. But now there's more Jack Smith story this morning. This just broke this morning. Special counsel Jack Smith has asked a judge today to bar Donald Trump's lawyers from injecting politics into the former president's trial on charges that he schemed to overturn the results of the 2020 election. Basically, in this 20-page filing this morning, Jack Smith doesn't want to allow the Trump lawyers to say that the prosecution is politically motivated. I don't think that that's going to fly because this whole case is about politics.
Yeah, listen, back to the we're going to be talking about Trump's court cases that's going to be our New Year's resolution. Can we go a day without talking about them because they're multiple and there's many facets to this. Listen, what Jack Smith, the federal prosecutor there, did was, and I'm not a lawyer, but I think he went straight to the Supreme Court.
Yes.
to have them rule on what President Trump claims, that he had presidential immunity on January 6th. He can't be held accountable. I would have done the same thing, because there's no point in going through a big trial if the Supreme Court is ultimately going to say it doesn't matter, because you can't prosecute him anyway, no matter what kind of case you can prove. And so the Supreme Court said, no, we're not going to decide that right now. We don't even know. We're not going to bypass the appellate court process. We're going to let the judge and then the appellate court judges the appellate court judges that is in D.C., that is a step below the Supreme Court, let them decide. That's what the Supreme Court said. Let them decide whether he or any president has immunity from prosecution for their deeds done while in the White House as president.
Yeah, but now this is different. This is Jack Smith saying he wants a court to rule. And Fred, I'm not sure I fully understand what Jack Smith is saying, that Trump's lawyers can inject politics into it. Does this mean that he's saying he wants the court to rule that President Trump can't bring up issues related to whether or not the election had been stolen? Is that what they're saying?
Yes.
That Jack Smith is saying too?
Mm-hmm.
So he can't even bring those kinds of arguments into the case?
That's a gag order, isn't it?
It is.
Basically.
I don't think that's going to fly. They've already ruled on the gag. Well, he's got sort of a gag order. He can't.
But the gag order is related to what he does outside the courtroom. This is saying that his attorneys can't bring up certain issues in his defense.
Yes.
That's I don't know. I
don't know how that holds. Wesley, what do you've never been a lawyer. What do you think?
That's a good way to ask the question, what I think.
No, I want to give you immunity from your answer. You can say anything you want, and you will not be held accountable because you are not a lawyer.
You're not a lawyer.
Mine's entirely too short and very simplistic, and I just think that, well, let me say this first. Now that I'm having a little bit more time to think through this, the 10 seconds. I do think that what you're saying is true. We'll be talking about this for a good bit into 2024, and it will obviously be a part of the any debates or anything that's discussed leading up to it. However, in the event that Trump, and this is very short and simple, so you can clip this up, Brent, so you can get ready when he asks me this again 2 months from now. If Trump gets indicted in any form,
he's already been indicted.
I'm sorry,
91 times.
31 times.
91.
91.
But he's got 91 counts that he has to defend against.
Sure.
I don't know what you call those. Do you call those separate indictments? I don't know. Do you call that?
It's 91 indictments.
If he is proven, or if they convict him on any counts, much less all 91, then there will be
Be careful.
There will be a lot of problems in the country for the people that support him and those outside that maybe supported him in 2016, but not otherwise.
What are you talking about? You talking about like a civil war out in the streets, using your guns to get justice?
Well, I wasn't going to say that, but yes, maybe not, there will be an uprising that will be frustrating because of the. It just seems to me they're using the government officials to persecute another elected official because they don't like him. Is it that simple?
No,
nope.
It's not. but you have expressed the feelings of millions of people.
Right.
That is true.
Right. Yes.
That is true. You have expressed the
feelings. Well, because of the emails that are still on Hillary Clinton's server. My point is, go ahead.
What you expressed was the reason that Donald Trump separated himself completely, at least in the polling, from the others in the Republican field.
Correct.
Because people feel like he's being targeted and persecuted, and so they're going to support him, period.
Yep.
To make a statement back to the left. That's the observation I have. I think it's accurate, but we'll be back after this break. Stay with us.
It's my turn.
Here is your host for My Turn, Don Wildman.
In the book of Psalms, there's one short verse that says, "Great is our Lord and abundant in power." Back in the second half of the 19th century, there was a soldier by the name of Lew Wallace. He was a general for the Union forces during the war between the states. Lew Wallace was also a lawyer and a statesman of some note. He served as governor of the New Mexico Territory from 1878 until 1881, and as a minister to Turkey from 1881 to 1885. Like many others, Lew Wallace found that as a grown man he had no religious beliefs. He often thought about this, especially when he was around some others who were strong in their belief. He even talked to Robert Ingersoll, the well-known atheist, for hours at one time. Ingersoll tried to prove to Wallace that the Bible was an unworthy book. Following a visit with some friends, Wallace spent some time in deep thought about what the friends had discussed: God, Christ, the Bible, etc. Somehow Wallace had felt left out in the conversation, and the reason was simple. He knew very little about the subjects. Following that conversation, Wallace made up his mind to write a book about what his friends had been talking about. The reason he decided to write a book was that he might make an in-depth study of the Bible. You see, he knew that unless he had some primary reason to study the Bible, that his study would be haphazard and would soon end. So for the next several years, Lew Wallace spent what time he could reading and studying the Bible. He read books related to the Bible, books that put light and understanding on the Bible. He also read books that shed light on the times during which certain events in the Bible took place. In fact, for more than 7 years, Lew Wallace worked on his book. He developed his theme around the life of Christ. Since he knew hardly anything about the Nazarene, he made Christ the secondary figure in the story, kept him in the background. It was while he was serving as governor of the New Mexico Territory that Wallace put the finishing touches on the book. It wasn't a pleasant time to write for the governor, especially since his life had been threatened by none other than Billy the Kid himself. Soon the book was finished. It was to become one of the most famous books ever written. Wallace named it Ben-Hur. It was translated into several languages. In 1927, it was made into a motion picture. In 1959, it was reshot, this time into one of the most spectacular motion pictures made up to that date. The book Ben-Hur still enjoys good sales even today. But the most important thing about this story is that Lew Wallace, the unbeliever, became Lew Wallace, the believer, because of the research on the book Ben-Hur. Many indeed are the paths the Nazarene uses to speak to us.
This has been My Turn with Don Wildman, a production of the American Family Association.
For he has rescued us from the dominion of darkness and brought us into the kingdom of the Son he loves. Colossians 1:13.
American Family Radio. This is today's issues. Email your comments to comments@afr.net. Past broadcasts of today's issues are available for listening and viewing in the archive at afr.net. Now, back to more of today's issues.
Hey, welcome back, everybody, to today's issues on the American Family Radio Network. Tim here with Fred, Wesley, and Ed. We hope you had a great Christmas celebration, and it's a very important holiday for Christians around the world. And Ed, I know that December the 25th is the day that the Western Church, is that how you would phrase it?
Yes,
Celebrates
I think that's right.
Christmas. Now, in the Eastern Church, including, I guess, would that include the Greek Orthodox and the Russian Orthodox?
Russian Orthodox, and maybe some of the Eastern. There are some like Eastern Catholic
right.
groups.
They have a different day.
I think theirs is January 6th, if I'm not mistaken. I'm going
7th.
Is it the 7th?
I'm looking at it right now.
It was the 6th, but they changed it. That's what happened on January.
So
that was coming.
it's like 2 weeks later.
Yeah. You know why that is?
I don't. I don't. My mom was Greek
Where is
Orthodox.
Ray Pritchard when you need him?
That's right.
That's right. My mom was Greek Orthodox
Yeah.
when she was a girl, and so we would go over to my Greeks. Also, Easter is different. I think that's one. I think that may be 1 week separated. So growing up, we wouldn't have two Christmases per se, but we would go over to the Greek side of the family, and there would be Christmas celebrations. But Easter, we definitely had two Easters. So we would. My dad was raised Catholic. My mom was raised Greek Orthodox. So we had those two Easters.
Gotcha.
But as a kid and not really being a Christian, growing up, we weren't raised in either church tradition. There was nothing really beneficial to have this sounds so mercenary. I shouldn't have started saying this, but if there were gifts given on Easter, it would have been tremendous to have two different Easters, because as a kid you would benefit from two groups. But there was nothing in particular that you thought.
Not even a chocolate bunny?
Yeah.
You didn't even get a chocolate bunny out of the deal?
We just got that. That was just for one Easter, and that was on the western side. So I apologize to all the people who are listening that are Greek Orthodox, and I know some who are friends and who come from the Eastern tradition, and they're saying, "Wow, if there's anything that can be said that points out what's wrong with Christianity in America, Ed Vitagliano just said it." I'm saying from a kid's perspective. That's what I meant.
Yeah. All right.
Oh,
You're
boy.
listening to
Oh, boy.
Today's Issues on the American Family Radio Network. Thanks for listening. Fred, what is the next story?
Well, the next story deals somewhat with Christmas, and I'm talking about Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. She put her brilliant mind to work to issue her own Christmas message, and I want to quote her directly right now.
Please do.
Yeah,
Okay.
don't misquote her, Fred.
Oh no,
Don't
no,
misquote AOC.
No, she's unique.
You don't even have to misquote her to get a laugh out of what she says.
All right. Quote, in the story of Christmas, Christ was born in modern-day Palestine under the threat of a government engaged in a massacre of innocents. He was part of a targeted population being indiscriminately killed to protect an unjust leader's power. She added, Mary and Joseph, displaced by violence and forced to flee, became refugees in Egypt with a newborn waiting to one day return home. Thousands of years later, right-wing forces are violently occupying Bethlehem as similar stories unfold for today's Palestinians, so much so that the Christian community in Bethlehem has canceled this year's Christmas Eve celebrations out of both safety and respect, end quote. Well, former Governor Mike Huckabee, also a Southern Baptist pastor in the past, had his response to Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's Christmas message. Here it is, cut number 5.
Is she not aware that Jesus was Jewish? Is she not aware that the whole term Palestinian meant Jewish people until 1962, when Yasser Arafat co-opted the term and created a nation and made up a people and called them the Palestinians, who previously were Jordanian? Is she aware at all of the fact that when she talks about how Bethlehem is not letting the Christians celebrate Christmas, the Christians were pretty much burned out and shut down by the radical Muslims who took it over back during the Intifada. So this is a person who is utterly ignorant about what she's talking about, and she may ought to stick to something she knows, like bartending, because for gosh sake, she has no clue about the history of the Middle East, Jesus, the Jewish people, the state of Israel, or virtually anything else that she talked about in her posts.
What? Gee.
Well, bingo. I just give Mike Huckabee, he just bingoed right there.
Oh my.
It's her statement is so bizarre, but she was trying to imply, she's trying to compare what Herod did, for example, in Herod the Great, we're talking about, in killing the children 2 years old and under, and slaughtering Palestinians to Israel, the IDF slaughtering Palestinians in Gaza. But the fact of the matter is, Herod the Great was actually part Arab. He had a Jewish mother. His father was an Edomite. So he was part Arab, killing Jewish children.
Yes.
So if she really understood what was going on, she wouldn't make the comparison because
She wouldn't use the analogy.
she wouldn't use the analogy because it almost backfires in another way, and it implies that what Hamas did
Sure.
is comparable to what Herod the Great did. Anyway, it's not a wise decision, I don't think, to make those kind of comparisons. And by the way, they weren't Palestinians; these were Jews.
But within their own party, there's almost no accountability or shame for saying stuff like this. That's what's frustrating.
Right.
That she can say something so loosely and so made up and so bizarre, but yet she doesn't. There's no shame. Nobody's shaming her own party, even for a day.
Right.
I don't know, guys. I'm seeing an AOC Bible commentary.
It's coming.
I can see that, coming out of this and being on the bestseller list.
Is he going to get signed?
I think there's already one. It's called the Message Bible, isn't it? No, I'm just kidding.
Oh,
That's 2 steps too far. Bring it back.
I've already gone down the rabbit trail one time and said something wrong, but no, folks. For those who like the Message Bible,
It has
that's Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, the Congresswoman from New York, also known as AOC, trying to compare today's war between Israel and Hamas with the birth of Jesus.
Right.
And you talk about shoehorning.
Yes.
Ed uses that expression a lot. That was a meeting of her brilliant team there in her office that put together this press statement, and they collaborated for that was an all-nighter with a lot of coffee. Try to fit those two stories together.
Yeah, she didn't miss any of it though. She knew exactly what she wanted to say.
Yeah,
Unfortunately,
she believes the Bible.
Yes.
AOC does.
and she believes in not to harm children. So she's totally against.
Well, at least those that are born.
That's right. That's what I was
Those
getting
that
at.
are born.
Yeah. All right.
Listen, it reminds me when people will use the birth of Jesus and talk about Mary and Joseph. They were illegal immigrants. They were illegal immigrants being persecuted by an overbearing government. That's why we should let illegal immigrants into our country. Yeah. I mean, this kind of idiocy. Listen, some of it can come from the right, but it almost always comes from the left.
And to Dad's point, why is it that it's necessary for her, other than for political reasons, to use any type of scripture at all to make any point? Because we know good and well she doesn't believe the
She doesn't believe it anyway.
She doesn't believe the Bible. So it's just shrewd, deceptive, and unfair for those that don't know any better. That she's misleading. So
right.
Yeah. What's your next story, Fred?
well, we need to stay in the Middle East because, like it or not, the United States is being drawn into that war zone right now. There have been literally dozens, some say over 100 attacks on U.S. Military personnel that are based in Syria, that are based in Iraq. And the latest on the weekend was an attack from Hezbollah terrorists against U.S. service people in Iraq, 3 injured, 1 critically injured. And so this is the Biden administration once again is being criticized because Iran backs Hezbollah, Iran backs the Houthi rebels that have been attacking not only U.S. forces but shipping through the ships going up into the Red Sea. And so this morning, Senator Lindsey Graham of South Carolina, who's also a member of the Armed Services Committee in the Senate, saying the reason why Americans are under attack is because the Biden administration has made our military so weak. Cut number 2.
We're fighting the Houthis. We beat the Germans and the Japanese. We should be able to beat the Houthis. Secretary Austin and the Biden administration is failing our troops in the field. I admire him. He's a patriot, but he's not doing a good job protecting the soldiers. I asked him a couple of months ago, Joey, what you were talking about. Is there a red line? Would you tell our enemies publicly that if you kill an American, we're coming after you? Without Iran, there are no Houthis. The Houthis are completely backed by Iran. I've been saying for 6 months now, hit Iran. They have oil fields out in the open. They have the Revolutionary Guard headquarters you can see from space. Blow it off the map. If you really want to protect American soldiers, make it real to the Ayatollah. You attack a soldier through a proxy, we're coming after you.
Yeah, so basically he is saying Iran is emboldened because they believe that the United States now has a leader, President Joe Biden, who is weak, and they can help these rebel groups, these terrorist groups like Hezbollah and the Houthis. They can do whatever they want, and the Americans are not going to respond with deadly force.
I got to tell you, first of all, I do want to give props. Y'all let me finish here before you jump on me here. All right, don't take my Diet Coke away. I do want to give credit to the Biden administration for sending those 2 aircraft carrier strike forces into the Eastern Mediterranean when Hamas attacked Israel. Do want to give him credit for that. Yes. But overall, President Biden, that's right, doing his job. But President Biden is a weak leader. He is perceived to be a weak leader, and I feel pretty certain that that's why all this stuff has happened. I think that's why Russia attacked Ukraine. Russia attacked nowhere during the Trump administration, although during the Obama administration, he attacked in a couple of different places, Crimea, Georgia first, and then Crimea. And now we're seeing the Houthi rebels. The U.S. shot down 12 suicide drones, 3 anti-ship ballistic missiles, 2 land attack cruise missiles.
You're saying, if I can take the more liberal position than you do, Ed, here? I don't understand. I do understand your point, but you're saying that if Biden weren't president, the Iranians wouldn't hate us?
No, I don't think they would be attacking us like they're doing, is what I'm saying.
Why? What would we do? What would we do differently?
I think
what Lindsey Graham suggests?
I think what Trump would have done is he would have attacked Iran directly. Now, I don't agree that that's the right tactic to take. I think I would disagree with Senator Lindsey Graham. Again, let me just say this.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think what the U.S. ought to do is attack the Houthis for what they're doing. I don't think you start a war with a major power in the Middle East, Iran, by attacking Iran. I think you attack the ones who are they may be using Iranian-supplied weaponry to attack us, but those are the people you attack.
I just find it ironic that we would attack Whoville just a few days after Christmas. I just don't. I think that might start World War III.
Yes,
right there.
Well, now I'm going to start.
That was a good one.
That was a good one. No,
that was a good one.
So to me, that's who you attack, and we ought to obliterate those.
Let me inject something here, because this is a within the Republican Party. There is a great division on these international matters, because you said, and I know you're only speculating, Ed, so who knows? But you said Trump would have attacked Iran. Is that what you said?
I think
in response.
I think he would.
Okay, all right. Well, listen. A majority of people who make up the Make America Great movement, who support President Trump to the hilt, they would find that warmongering. They would say, you can't be Nikki Haley and what's Graham?
Lindsey Graham.
Lindsey Graham. Those are neocons. Those are warmongers. That's military-industrial complex stuff. What you're talking about here, and so I'm not. So Trump shouldn't be supporting starting World War III. I'm just telling you that's how a lot of people who support President Trump think, and that's what they say. So anyway, but we're basing this on speculation.
Right.
I say we're basing the response to the crisis in the Middle East. Listen, my view is the Iranians don't care if it's a Republican or a Democrat president. They're going to use their proxies to attack our military if they can. And you're right, they are just daring us to do something like Lindsey Graham was talking about, the senator of South Carolina a few minutes ago. And we have done something in the sense that the United States military has shot down all these attacks to these drones and so forth that have been attacking us from the land. But aren't they basically launching weapons at our ships? Isn't that what's and our military bases?
Mm-hmm.
Well, you have to respond to that.
We have military bases in Iraq, right?
Correct.
Yeah, and that's where they're trying to attack.
Yes.
So it's been a measured response so far by the United States military on this matter. But the Iranians are going to hate us. Doesn't matter, Democrat, Republican. They hated Obama. You know what I'm saying?
By the way, now the drones, all these attacks were headed towards Israel and U.S.-based Navy forces.
Well, they've also been firing at our ships out there in the.
Yeah, but
this
past
weekend
was these were headed towards Israel. The ones this weekend.
Okay, but there's been both.
Yes,
there's been attacks from Yemen.
Yes.
Yemen. In fact, some of these Iranian support rebels. Are these the Houthis we're talking about?
The Houthis, yes. Yeah.
Okay. Are they the ones in Yemen?
Yes.
Okay. They have been trying to fire weapons over Saudi Arabia and land them in Israel to attack Israel.
Right.
And even Saudi Arabia has knocked down some of those. So anyway, there are these Iranian proxies. There are several of them all over the Middle East, including Hamas and Hezbollah. All right. You're listening. Is that all to that story, Fred?
That's all on that front, yes. But we have another front to talk about.
Like a cold front? What do you got?
No, this other front
Canada?
is our southern border.
Oh.
I don't know if all of our listeners are aware of what has been happening, especially in the last 2 to 3 weeks. We have had days on our southern border where in excess of 12,000 people on a given day have come through our southern border. And don't be misled, folks. When you read the Associated Press, they say they were arrested. They were given a form to fill out. Where do you want to go in the United States? And then they're let go. And they're given a date. It could be a year, 2 years, 3 years from now to show up for an asylum hearing. That's what's going on. I think in the last week, I think there was a figure this morning, 35,000 in the last week.
Listen, this is if there's something Biden should be impeached for, in my view, this is it.
Yes.
This is a dereliction of constitutional duty. He is letting millions of people into our country. He's not doing anything to stop them, nothing. And this, furthermore, I think our asylum process needs to be stopped.
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna say suspended. That's not a constitutional right. Applying for asylum, I don't think it is.
It's not.
Okay, it's not a constitutional right. It can be amended. What needs to happen is the Congress needs to say no more asylum appeals for a year. I know that goes against our history, and our history is to be a place of refuge for people who are politically persecuted or persecuted for their ethnicity or their religious beliefs. There's been an appeal, a asylum process in America for as long as I can remember, but it's being completely and totally abused because all these millions of people now, and you're right, these millions of people who have come across since Biden's been president, and it's like 10 to 15,000 now a day, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, a day.
Yes.
Pouring in. And every one of them are saying, I want asylum. I want asylum. Well, they don't. These people aren't being persecuted. First of all, you're supposed to apply for asylum in the first country you come to when you're leaving the one you've been persecuted in. These people aren't doing that. They're not applying for asylum in Mexico. It's a cottage industry now. I read yesterday, like travel agents in Africa are offering, trips to the Mexico. So, and then walk into the United States. We'll take you up to the border. It's unbelievable. But all this is a complete and total abuse of the asylum process. That's what they're claiming. These people know when they get their asylum process that they're never going to show up to appear in any court for 3, 4, 5 years from now. Okay? So until you stop that. Now, if you stop that, I'm talking about the asylum. First of all, the liberals would scream to bloody murder. And but maybe enough of them would agree now, given what's happening in these liberal-run cities. They're being overrun by illegal immigrants. But you would have to have some sort of enforcement mechanism to stop people from pouring in. The liberals don't want to build a wall.
Nope.
So they don't want to build a wall. They don't want to really do anything. So I don't know what their solution is. They don't have a solution. That's why Biden lets everybody in.
Yep. Well, it's our Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas to the rescue today. Mm-hmm. You know where he is today?
Where is he?
He's down in Mexico. Because
doing what?
They're going to try to lay some blame for the invasion of our country on the Mexican government.
We can't protect ourselves. We got to help other people.
Yeah,
other countries got to help us. Got to protect us.
They're going to tell the Mexican government today, you guys ought to be slowing down these people, because they're invading our country. They're jumping on trains, on top of trains, and going up. So once again, South Carolina Senator Lindsey Graham had something to say about that. Cut number 3.
They could fix this tomorrow if they chose to. This is a self-inflicted wound by the Biden administration. Trump had the border at the lowest level of illegal crossings in 40 years in December of 2020. December of 2023, we're at an all-time high. Policy matters. So he told Mexico, if you don't help me, I'm going to put tariffs on all your products. Guess what? They helped. Biden changed that policy. We're being overrun. President Biden has abandoned the Border Patrol.
Remember what candidate Joe Biden said? I will never forget this when he was running in 2020. Yeah. I will invite a surge.
Yeah.
In that debate.
I disagree with Senator Graham on one point. I don't think this is a self-inflicted wound.
You think it's intentional?
Oh, completely. Yes. Totally intentional.
Yes.
It's not. This is by design. This is what Biden wants. Now, I don't think he ever intended to get resistance from the Democrat mayors.
Right.
I probably thought these cities in New York, Boston, Chicago, Denver, San Francisco are too far away. They'll never be impacted. We'll just let them pour into Arizona and a couple red states, Texas and others, and let them harass, be their problem. But anyway.
I would just add this, and Wesley, we'll let you jump in too. Well, I guess you're going to have to wait till after the...
all my thoughts?
Yeah. All your thoughts.
Write them down.
I think we ought to, to me, it's worth it. I think we ought to pay Mexico to patrol their southern border. and we pay them and say, listen, you name your price, you keep people from coming in from Central and South America, and we'll pay you X, whatever, tens of millions of dollars a year. And that saves us a lot of money, and then we close our border as well, so we control the Mexican immigration.
So we can tie this bow, and I get my one thought on what Lindsey Graham said. I do agree that he said policy matters, and the policy under the Trump administration on the border is 180 different between that and the Biden administration on their efforts on the border, and it's pretty obvious.
All right, we're going to take a short time out. We'll be back with more of today's issues in 5 minutes.
The views and opinions expressed in this broadcast may not necessarily reflect those of the American Family Association or American Family Radio.
Faith, family, freedom. American Family Radio.
You only want to donate to biblically sound organizations. So as a federal or state employee, why not choose the American Family Association Combined Federal Campaign Designation 12037? Of the organizations on the CFC list, AFA is one of the few standing for you and your family. By choosing 12037, you help make it possible for us to continue.
This is American Family Radio, a listener-supported ministry of the American Family Association.
For American Family News, I'm Chris Woodward. Michigan Supreme Court is keeping former President Donald Trump on the state's primary election ballot. The court said it will not hear an appeal of a lower court's ruling from groups seeking to keep Trump from appearing on the ballot. The ruling differs with a decision last week by the Colorado Supreme Court. The White House is now looking to refill the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. The U.S. stockpile of oil is at its lowest level since the 1980s, and it's raising concerns. Here's Fox's Jeff Flock.
Not a good time to have not as much oil perhaps in reserve as you'd like, with the Mideast in some chaos. The administration says it's getting a good deal for taxpayers, but right now, yes, indeed, replacing about 3 million of the more than 200 million barrels they drained at the cost of about $77 a barrel. And as the administration points out, that is well below the average of $95 a barrel that they sold for in 2022. They say that's securing a good deal for taxpayers. But critics say it's not about profit, it's about making sure that we have enough in our reserve.
New York City Mayor Eric Adams says the city is not getting the federal support it needs to help with the influx of migrants and had some strong words for President Biden. Fox's CB Cotton has this story.
The mayor's office is pointing a finger squarely at the White House, saying the Biden administration is not providing the necessary financial assistance to the seemingly unending wave of migrants flooding New York City. Mayor Eric Adams' office said that another 188 migrants arrived Tuesday night to the Port Authority bus terminal after their flight from El Paso, Texas to New York's JFK Airport was diverted to Philadelphia due to inclement weather. These new arrivals come as the city tries to keep up resources for the more than 68,000 migrants still in their care. A spokesperson for the mayor said as temperatures drop, they've had a surge at the city's intake center. Meanwhile, Mayor Adams says he keeps asking the White House for more help, but can't get it.
Mayor Adams announced budget cuts last month to help combat the rise in migrant arrivals. China is proving once again it will not condone Christianity. Charlie Butts explains.
China is fighting against the Christian church through Syria's persecution, and that has intensified in recent years. Bob Fu of China Aid tells AFN the Chinese Communist Party called on police most recently to raid a particular independent church attended by about 300 Christians.
So 17 of the members were arrested, and after some interrogation, so 15 were released and 5 were criminally detained and facing a long criminal sentence.
That includes Elder Ding Zhongfu, who had obtained a green card and was to come to this country for his daughter's wedding in Ohio.
So this is another case showing the worsening situation of religious persecution, and the Communist Party tried to use a criminal charge by accusing these church leaders committing fraud for basically the church collectively with receiving offering and tithing.
He says it's just another incident proving that party leadership has declared war on the Christian faith, forcing allegiance to the party, and singing songs of allegiance to its leadership during worship services. Worshippers also must recite party slogans during services. I'm Charlie Butts.
Back to the U.S. now, where an Indiana man is rescued from a vehicle wreckage underneath a bridge nearly a week after crashing. Fox's Evan Brown has details.
Two friends scouting for a place to fish along Salt Creek in Porter County, Indiana, came across a wrecked car under the I-94 bridge. Inside, a man was trapped. 27-year-old Matthew Room had been there for 6 days.
Quite frankly, it's a miracle that he's alive.
Indiana State Police Glenn Fiffield. Room says he survived by drinking rainwater.
And the new year will bring new laws and regulations to various parts of the country. Several state and local governments are increasing their minimum wage. Recreational pot becomes legal in Virginia. Michigan is doing away with its right-to-work law, and California is requiring some retail stores to offer a so-called gender-neutral section for children's toys. Find more news on afn.net.
Forget about Facebook.
The last 10 days we've been banned twice, and is unbanning a word?
They put us under the ban. Christians and conservatives
Don't need you, YouTube.
Banned one day, banned again.
AFR programs are now live streaming on the AFA Streaming app. Now you can get shows like Today's Issues straight from the source.
Put back on the next.
just say unbanned.
Unbanned.
Just search AFA Streaming or visit streaming.afa.net to sign up. Today's Issues continues on AFR with your host, Tim Wildman, President of the American Family Association.
Hey, good morning again, everybody, or good afternoon if you're living in the Eastern time zone. You're listening to the radio program Today's Issues on the American Family Radio Network. We got 25 more minutes of this show. If you want to send us an email, the address is comments@afr.net, comments@afr.net. This is a live issue-oriented talk show that we host every day here on the American Family Radio Network. Joining me, I'm remote today, so in studio is Ed Battagliano. Good morning, Ed, again.
Good morning, Tim.
And Wesley Wildman.
And good morning.
And then Steve Paisley Jordahl now joins us for this segment.
Good morning, everybody. And Tim, today is not a good day for you to be remote.
Why is that?
You mocked me. You were one of the people that mocked me mercilessly, along with Ed, about my chocolate chili.
It wasn't merciless.
It
was mockery, but it wasn't merciless.
Well,
he has more.
We're about.
If this goes south, he's got more mockery.
Okay, it's true. We're about to have a taste test.
You brought chili in.
Yes, I did.
So right there in studio.
Yeah,
So this is chocolate chili.
Just to review, last week
It's
Steve
chocolate.
brought
It's
up
double chocolate chili.
Yeah,
That's very
and
good.
I was repulsed by that idea. I love chocolate and I love chili, but not that. Not
You have
the
to take it
combo.
from Ed, or your son. One of the two of them is going to
Okay,
give
so
it.
I'm watching you guys. You can't, listeners, if they're watching on the internet, can't see me, but I'm watching the three of you in studio on our live stream.
It's better than
Ed and Wesley are eating the chocolate. You said it's double chocolate.
Double chocolate chili.
I usually don't like the idea.
All right, Ed. Let me have your review, and then Wesley's.
All right, this is excellent chili. I'm struggling tasting the chocolate.
You're not supposed to taste the chocolate as chocolate. It just gives a little bit of a sweet, rich texture and flavor to it.
That's really good chili.
Well, thank you.
Really good.
Is it hot?
No, it is not. I mean, it's got a little bit of extra
Room
flavor.
temperature?
I think I did taste a little bit of the.
There's a little.
No, I'm talking about is it hot temperature-wise?
Yes, I have a.
No, it's not cold. It's.
I brought it in a crock pot.
All right, Wesley.
English language and how the English language and how same word can mean many things.
Yes.
Is it hot? Well, cold. No,
It's not
spicy.
picante.
Hot.
It's not very picante, but it is caliente a little bit.
There you go. So,
Wesley, what do you think?
I usually do not like the idea of mixing two good things.
Yeah.
Chili and chocolate. They should be done separate because they're good.
Mm-hmm.
But if you had not have put this on live radio, I would not have tried it. And now that I've tried it, I'm a fan. It's really, 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 really good.
Really good chili.
Really good chocolate.
There you go.
Chili.
So this is one of those don't knock it till you tried it action.
Mm-hmm. That's it.
Applies here to double chocolate chili. Well, Steve, are you going to put that recipe on our Today's Issues Facebook page?
We can. Actually, we did have a listener. I got a call from Carmen this morning at our front desk, and she says, some listener called in and said he wants a recipe for the chocolate chili. I'm thinking, how did you know that I brought chocolate chili today? But he didn't. It just happened to be that he called in today from our discussion prior.
Yeah.
So
It's very good, Steve.
I sent the recipe to Carmen, and she sent it on.
Don't send it yet. That's our premium for next year.
Okay.
Don't
Okay.
hold that.
All right.
It's already sent.
Well, it is to her. Yeah.
That's very good. Good chili.
All right, you're listening to Today's Issues on American Family Radio. Hey, fellas, I wanted to play this clip here because we got the Republican caucus going on there in Iowa coming up, what, in 2 weeks?
January 15th.
Yeah, roughly 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks. And then on to New Hampshire for their primary, and then down to South Carolina and Nevada, and then Super 2. Well, there's some other states coming up. Anyway, former President Trump made it an odd. He was on his Truth Social video platform yesterday. I think it was last night, and he was talking about the Iowa caucuses, and he was encouraging people who support him to caucus, to go out and do that in support of him. And this is one of the things that he said.
Out for caucuses, teach them how to caucus, take them in your car on caucus night. If you have to do whatever is necessary, we got to get them in. We got to make America great again. So do whatever it takes. If you do, we will win and win big, and that's what you have to do. You know the other side does cheat, and we're not going to let that happen. We cannot let that happen, but that's what we need from you. Get in your car, get a lot of people, and get down and caucus. Give a great speech for me. I hope you will, and I know you will. I have such confidence in you as you had in me and you have in me.
I just think he likes saying the word caucus, like you like Ramaswamy.
Well, he said, the other side cheats.
He's talking about fellow Republicans.
Is he?
Right? Isn't that what he's saying at the caucus?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
he's talking about the Iowa caucus. Get in your car, go caucus. We need to win, he said. Well, he means his campaign. And then he says that he said the other side. He said, "Well, play it again." I'm not making this up. What did he say?
He said the other side, but
no, play it again.
Brent is making his way back to the board right now.
Out for caucuses, teach them how to caucus, take them in your car on caucus night. If you have to do whatever is necessary, we got to get them in. We got to make America great again. So do whatever it takes. If you do, we will win and win big, and that's what you have to do. You know the other side does cheat, and we're not going to let that happen. We cannot let that happen. But that's what we need from you. Get in your car, get a lot of people, and get down and caucus. Give a great speech for me. I hope you will, and I know you will. I have such confidence in you as you had in me and you have in me.
Okay. He must be talking about Governor DeSantis or Nikki Haley being cheaters.
Yeah, that's what he said. I don't
mean,
understand that. What he's.
Well, that's what he did to Ted Cruz in Iowa. He said he cheated. You remember that?
Yeah.
If Trump loses, he has a history of calling people cheaters, either Republicans. But to preemptively say that DeSantis and Nikki Haley, he said the other side. He said, the other side, they cheat.
Which means they've cheated in the past. That's what he's going on.
He's talking about
wrong.
DeSantis and Nikki Haley.
Talking about opponents.
Well, the other side generally, Trump would say
talking about the caucus in Iowa.
I'm surprised that he said if what we're believing he said is what he said, then that's hard to understand, because it's not out of character for him to say that the Democrats cheat, but for him to say that Republicans cheat is a surprise to me. If that's what he's saying.
That's what he said.
No, that's clearly what he's saying, and I'm not sure how you cheated a caucus. Now, I maybe if you say, the voting at, in primary polling places, you can't trust the voting. That's one thing, but the caucuses, I don't know how you would. I guess I don't know. I don't know what he's implying. How you cheated a caucus.
Well, what I would say is, what evidence does he have that DeSantis or Nikki Haley are cheaters?
No, I don't think. I think what he's doing, and it's just part of his strategy for decades, and that's that
slander.
He positions himself in a way that if he fails, it wasn't on him.
Right.
It wasn't on anything he did.
Well, okay. Well, that's what he did to Cruz in 2016 in Iowa. Cruz won Iowa, and Trump said he cheated. It was fraud.
Yeah.
And furthermore, he said he needed to be kicked off the ballot. because he was a cheater. So I'm just saying that if Trump loses Iowa, be prepared, because he's already laid out there that DeSantis, right, whoever wins Iowa, cheated him.
Yep.
That's what he said. I think that's pathetic.
It is.
Commentary, behavior from. Listen, Trump should be trying to build the Republican Party together now, unify it. He talks about unity.
Yeah,
he needs to be trying. If he is truly ahead by the margins that the polling shows and that he says he is, his job now is to try to unify the Republican Party, because he would need this is his legal issues aside, he would need every vote he could get from Republicans. And if you're going to take your Republican opponents and call them cheaters,
because
without any evidence before a caucus, that just doesn't make any sense at all. If you want to say, okay, cheaters, now come support me.
Yeah.
Right.
Come join me and unify with me.
Right. I was going to say.
Come cheat for me now.
Yeah, come help me. I don't know.
Listen, and I've been saying this all along, there is a way to position yourself as being the best option when you're going against fellow party members. And to me, what he should have said was this. Listen, you know that my opponents work hard. They, pound the streets. They get to these caucuses, and they are passionate. We've got to outwork them. We've got to be more passionate, and you get up there and make sure you speak. To me, that's the way you encourage your side to outwork the other side so that you win without insulting your opponents. And then when the general election comes along, you say to your opponents, hey, listen, now we can unify behind the legitimate.
Yeah,
Why
listen,
not do that?
Politics is rough and tumble, and everybody knows that. And usually Republicans and Democrats, they go through their bloody fights, and then they unify at the end against against the common opponent, the other opponent. And that may yet happen here. I'm just saying, Trump makes it harder because he personalizes the insults.
Right.
When you call Governor Haley a bird brain over and over and over again, when you never call the duly elected governor of Florida by his name, you just call him DeSantis. That's personalizing insults, and those things are harder to get over than just having political or policy differences.
Right.
I'm saying. All right, next story, Steve.
All right. Well, remember 2023. The Biden administration said that they were going to go after natural gas stoves. Remember that?
Yeah.
And then the actual White House said, no, we're not. And then behind the scenes, regulations are out, and they are going after stoves. Well, according to Fox News, Ben Lieberman, 2024 is going to be even worse because they're going after 4 more consumer products. They're going to have more stringent requirements on dishwashers, air conditioners, washing machines, and furnaces. All through regulation, not through any congressional action.
Yeah, and what's funny is I was looking at a story on Fox. It's a Christmas picture, Kamala Harris and her husband, Doug Emhoff, and they are posing for their Christmas picture next to a gas stove in their house. It's bizarre. The hypocrisy of the left never ceases to amaze me. They don't care that they get caught, but if they add all those 4 appliances, I guess appliance is a good way to characterize all. I'm not sure if furnace is an appliance, but those 4 appliances in the home, man, they are going to jack up the prices for new homes. And then I wouldn't be surprised for them to come behind and try to grandfather in those and say, listen, if you have a dishwasher, we just got a new air conditioning unit. Ours was 23 years old, so we got one over the summer. So I guess we got under the wire, but they are going to cause some of the prices of these air conditioning units to double in price.
It isn't a good election year strategy, except that it's going to be, maybe he's buying votes even as we speak. I don't know if you saw this, but he has decided to give federal workers a 5-point-something% raise, the biggest they've had in years. Wow. So that's up to him, and he's doing that. So I think that's buying votes. I think all of this comes down to perception.
But Wesley, this is not buying votes. If you're going to go after people's appliances,
the opposite.
You'd think that would be the opposite, but the Biden administration is shameless, or whoever's running the administration.
Yeah, I think they should be the first to experiment with this. And so they should have to sign a contract that says for 2 years or 12 months, we're all going to do this. And if it goes well, then we're going to enforce it on everyone. I don't think you should enforce it, but it sounds like that's what they want to do. I think they should be able to get a little taste of how this really plays out.
Well, you know what? I agree with that. But then after you said it, I thought, you know what? But these people are all millionaires. Kamala Harris, Joe Biden,
sure.
All these people are millionaires. It means less to them to have to live according to their own regulations than it does the average family.
That's true, and that goes back to like the electric cars. You know, they're $80,000 a car. When your average car, somebody want to buy even new, you could get a car, for $30,000, $40,000. It's almost twice the price for an electric vehicle at minimum. But they're wanting to force people to do that, and then they can
do our part, or this planet's going to burn.
That's true.
So I don't like the whining. You don't like if you can't afford an electric car, get a bicycle.
There you go.
If you can't afford a gas stove, not a gas stove. What am I looking for?
Electric range.
Electric stove.
Yeah.
But that is the kind of the attitude, because remember when all this started they started talking about the electric vehicles. They were all saying, "Well, just go buy an electric vehicle."
Sure.
Like the average family can go out and either buy an $80,000 electric vehicle or replace the battery once it goes out. $7,000 or $8,000.
Yeah, they need to be able to allow people to just buy whatever appliance they want to buy. Oh wait, that's America. We wouldn't want to. We want to change that.
To your point, I think what we should do is we should tell members of the political class, so presidents, members of Congress or the Senate, and say you only have your salary. That's all you can have.
Yeah.
You can't. No speaking tours, no millions of dollars, no investments, and you have to live according to the regulations.
No private jets.
No private jets.
No, they need to ban private jets first and foremost. That makes more banning. Of course, I'm being facetious here, but if you want to tell the liberals, all these entertainers and celebrities and liberal Democrats that tell us how the little people should live to protect the planet.
The little people.
They tell the little people how to live. No gas stoves, can't have gasoline for your.
Y'all may have got me started here.
Blower.
No leaf blowers.
No leaf blower, no gas-powered leaf blowers for your yard. But so y'all need to do that while I get on my private jet and fly off to
and do something important.
And Asia's
vacation
responsible
destinations in the Caribbean or Switzerland or wherever like that.
China and Asia, they're all responsible for a third.
China and India, you mean?
Yes, in India, and responsible for almost a third, maybe even a little more of all pollution in the world. But yet we keep doing business with them, no problem.
Right.
So like the hypocrisy of them, and of course China has way more issues that we would disagree with both morally and ethically. But the fact that they're polluting at the rate that they pollute, and we don't. AOC doesn't have a problem with China.
Right.
Yep. Speaking of electric cars, they had a fire in Pine Level, Alabama, and Tesla Model Y caught fire, and it just was fully involved by the time the police got there. But to put this fire out, one car, they had to send 3 engines, 2 rescue vehicles, an ambulance, 4 water tankers,
and a partridge in a pear tree,
a quad, and a brush truck. And
see what it did there?
Command
I did.
Yes, I like that. So, they had to expend 36,000 gallons of water to put out this fire. And they're prone. Electric vehicles are more prone to fires.
Sure, absolutely.
Because the heat that builds up in the batteries, this is not going to end well.
No, and I think we should force it on everybody. Not.
Right.
Said no conservative.
Okay, so I did look up because of this story. How hard is it to put out an electric vehicle fire? And this is what I found. This is from Chemistry for Life. It's a website, ACS. Okay, I think this is one of those professional, the American Chemical Society. It says it does say electric vehicles don't catch fire often, but when they do, things get spicy. How do these fires start, and why are they so hard to put out? There are scientists trying to answer these questions, but there are also scientists still trying to figure out what actually happens chemically when a lithium-ion battery catches fire. So apparently even scientists are having a hard time figuring out why what you just described happens, why it takes so much water to put them out. And sometimes they're just spontaneous fires. Like there was one on a California highway.
Yeah, you might want to think about that before you start mandating these things. I'm just saying.
Something to consider.
Listen, the Biden administration has done all the figuring, all the research. They their scientists have put a pencil to it, and they know what they're doing, Steve. So have some faith.
All right. Yeah, right. All right, let's I think we can this will probably take us to the end. Delta Gate agent at the gate is having none of this transgender silliness. He was approached by a guy that thinks he's a woman, and he addressed him as a guy. And the transgender guy called him out, but I want you to hear his response.
Misgender. That's what misgender means.
Yes, misgender it's the wrong. They're saying it's the wrong. You're the wrong gender. So this is the Delta Gate agent. I don't know what his name is, but this got 7.
And what about when a Delta employee misgenders you intentionally?
While he's talking, you're talking.
You just misgendered me again.
Okay.
Multiple times.
Gotcha.
Both of you have.
Sorry. Wasn't intentional, but if you want to take it personal, that's also.
Well, she did do it intentionally twice.
You're talking to me too.
You said she and then you said he.
You're being condescending, and if you want to continue, I have Port Authority escort you out the building right this moment if you want to play that game with me.
Okay.
Would you like to continue 3 days before Christmas? I really don't mind.
I'm good. I'll just put this on.
Listen, I watched the video and read this story over the weekend, and I'm just going to tell you, this guy's my new hero.
Right?
I don't know his name, but
yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. We need a little bit more of that.
Yes.
And a lot less pandering to 45 different gender identities.
Yes.
Or 68, whatever it is.
You know what? That fellow right there who wears a dress. Does he wear a dress? Anyway, it says he's a woman, right?
You don't have to nowadays. Nowadays, you just have to say it.
Yeah.
You don't have to.
Well, he was looking for a fight.
Yeah.
Sure, absolutely.
He had the video rolling.
Yes.
And he is also, I read, friends of that Dylan Mulvaney.
Oh, is that right?
The Bud Light celebrity. The one who led to the downfall of
Bud Light.
A Bud Light.
Personally destroyed a $1 billion brand.
Yes.
Yes, that's his friend, and so they're provocateurs, and so they were trying to get Delta. I'm sure they'll put the pressure on Delta now, Delta Airlines, to try to apologize.
And I wouldn't put it past just because people are people. They say, "Hey, you misgendered me. I want first class. I want an upgrade to first class." Listen, I was looking at another story here. Have you guys ever heard of abrosexual? So this is a story. It says UK journalist explains little known. This is a new sexual identity.
Oh, another one.
Abrosexual describes when someone's sexual identity fluctuates and changes. So
Isn't that every transgender person?
Listen, the rest of us who do not have this issue in our lives are left at their mercy because they're going to say, I'm abrosexual. Yeah, but you were a woman yesterday. Now you're a man. How am I supposed to know the difference? Well, because I'm abrosexual, bro.
They should be ashamed that they've made it to 2023 and they just came up with that.
That's right.
That would have been the trump card from the very beginning.
Yes.
If they could have just came up with that from the very beginning, they could have.
It would be an aberration.
Aberration. And you're supposed to figure out what I am today. And if you don't, I'm insulted.
Great job, Delta.
Probably a good thing this show's over.
Yes, it is.
Huh?
Yep.
All right, we're out of time. Thank you for yours. Folks, keep listening to American Family Radio. And we here on Today's Issues, we'll see you back here tomorrow.
You know, one of the most patriotic scenes you can experience in America is going to the Arlington National Cemetery